meeting to order. Would you please take roll?
Miss Adkins.
Here.
Mr. Houston.
Here.
Mrs. McDaniel.
Here.
Mrs. Peterson.
Here.
Mr. Sorensen.
Here.
Mr. Wright.
Here.
Mrs. Sheppel.
Here. Can I get a motion to approve the May 6, 2024 agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Miss Adkins.
Yes.
Mr. Houston.
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen.
Yes.
Mr. Wright.
Yes.
Mrs. Sheppel.
Yes. Commendation and good news.
So we were supposed to have Titan Hill present tonight. Unfortunately, Mrs. Barker was sick, so she's going to come and present in June now. So that's one less thing we have to do tonight. Other than that, we did want to make a note that it is not only Teacher Appreciation Week, but it's also School Board Recognition Month. And so we do have, at your guys' place, you have a little memento of school board appreciation. Appreciate the work that you guys do, and I know it's interesting because you guys have a big impact on our school, and when things are going good, nobody says a word, and when things are going bad, you hear about it. So that's the tough thing about being a school board member. So I appreciate you guys being there and being supportive and helping us move forward. So outside of that, good news is we have our soccer team is still ranked number 1 in the state. So they play class below us, number 2, Heelan, on Saturday to end their season. So hopefully they can finish undefeated going to the postseason. Girls are ranked number 10 or 8th. We should qualify several runners, both in girls and boys and throwers, from our track teams for state. The music department had 4 superiors from their large group. That's the first time they've ever had all level 1 superiors this last weekend. When I think about, or when we talked about our Iowa assessments, those are just wrapping up right now, but so far, in the middle school, I know middle school Titan Hill and the high school are pretty much up across the board. So the middle school ones are the ones that I've seen the most of, and they're really pretty phenomenal, well over 80% in almost every category, which is very, very, very good. And so, I'm trying to think if there's any other good news. I was prepared to have Titan Hill take up all the time. So
The musical was it last weekend or a couple weekends ago? Footloose. So
yep,
did a really good job
Footloose.
with
Yep.
that.
And then Mrs. Schwery or Miss Schwery and who else was that? Nelson Foundation. It was Miss Schwery and
Kavanaugh.
And Miss Kavanaugh. They were both recognized for Outstanding Teacher of the Year. Mrs. Jacoby. Miss Jacoby is the Rotary Teacher of the Year from Lewis Central, so that's pretty awesome. Just kind of closing up the year and getting all those neat awards. So, anything else?
Drake Relays. Our teams
Relays.
represented very well. 8th grade team won there.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. Yeah. And then we also had Drake Relays had a kind of more of an integrated event this year. It was really, really, really cool to see. So we had a team go up and participate as part of the Special Olympics portion of that, and did very, very well. I think they got 2nd, 4th.
Nice.
4th.
In the state.
So in the state. Yeah, really awesome.
That's great.
So.
Anyone else? Commendation and good news? All right, we'll go then to our comments and suggestions. This is the first time during our agenda that anyone in the audience or anyone listening online, if they want to type something in, can address the board. Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to our consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Do we have any updated personnel sheet?
Yes, there is an updated personnel sheet.
how many openings do we still have? Do you know?
I think we have one at the high school. I'm not sure, we don't think we have one at the middle school.
One at middle school.
I think
One at
that's-
Craft.
One at Craft still? Oh, yeah, special ed teacher at Craft.
Okay, is there any discussion?
I think the thing that stands out for me is the LC grads coming back to teach in the district. That speaks volumes to what we have here, and that they are not looking to go to some big city school, but they're coming back home. And I recognize at least 3 names on there, so, and I'm sure there's probably more if there's married names or whatever, but it's pretty amazing to see.
I was gonna say, a couple
But it's-
graduated with your daughter and
I was
my
gonna
son.
say, I'm really not sure that I'm okay with the fact that they're my daughter's age, but congratulations on the same.
Yes, it's exciting.
It is, very. And Mason and Chloe he's a year older than Chloe, and they were in kindergarten, first grade together with Mrs. Hahn, so that's the other name that I recognized.
Okay, any other comments? Vote please.
Mr. Houston,
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen,
Yes.
Mr. Wright,
Yes.
Miss Atkins.
Yes.
Miss Shuffle.
Yes. Report 6.01, planned summer project updates.
I'm gonna ask, Mr. Brett Wallace, if he can give us a quick update on where we currently sit, with, in regards to our roofing and HVAC projects.
Yep. Do you want me just to go over the schematic stuff?
Uh,
Doing it, or-
just generally, where are we sitting at as far as, like, are we ready to go to bid? Are we ready?
For the summer projects?
You hit the great, thank you.
Got it. Okay. For the summer projects, the 2 big projects we're currently working on are both at the high school. Also, there's some technical work too, but the roofs in the gymnasium wing, and then also some mechanical work in the gymnasium wing. The roofing is in a schematic design phase right now, which I'll go over here in a bit. Looking to have bid documents ready the end of this month, put it out for bid, and receive bids back mid-June. At that point, we'll need your approval on whatever we select to move forward, and hopefully have work started in July. And speaking with some roofers, we should be able to complete the work before school starts to do those, however many sections of roofs we can do for the money. We are coming in under, from what we're hearing, under our budgeted money we put in, so we're hoping to do, as of now, we're looking to do the large gym and some repairs on the commons area, and then the entire weight room wing of the roofs, and we're hoping money comes in low enough we can throw in another section, whether it's the small gym, the music wing, or actually do the commons re-roofing. So things are looking good for getting more quantity for our money. The mechanical is currently in design still. There's quite a bit of infrastructure we're finding out has to be done with the mechanical. We're looking at taking the air handlers off of the chiller loop to ease the burden on the chiller system, which we believe was undersized back in the day, and that's why it struggles. And so we're gonna do some standalone units that have both heat and air built into the unit itself. But in doing that, it creates the need for a larger gas service over in that area, along with electrical service. So we're kind of just going through the legwork of figuring out the sizing of that service, how to route it. So we've still got a lot of design work to do on the mechanical side of that. That equipment is long lead time equipment too, so whenever we do get it out for bid, get it ordered, that work likely wouldn't happen until late fall, almost into the winter. But that's okay, because that's not heating or not cooling season, so you can kind of do that work and not really affect the performance of the building as it is. So.
Then where do we sit with like the Titan Hill?
Titan Hill is also doing some, it's a little bit behind the high school as far as mechanically. We've been researching it's on geothermal up here, and where are the old well fields? How big are they? do we need to add another well field to help with the additions that have gone into the building because it's kind of being poor void right now? Is there space to put a well field? Because currently there's one underneath the parking lot for the building. This building has one underneath Logan's ball field, so we're starting to become landlocked to work for more well fields. So a lot of evaluations still going on in that project. The design hopefully will finish up through the summer, but there probably won't be any work completed through the summer on that project.
Okay.
So, but things are moving along well. Seeing, finding a lot of things as we do discovery on it, figure out how to get what the desired needs are to work for you. So,
Okay, all right, thank you. Outside of that, we're kind of in the waiting phase as far as the rest of our summer projects. That usually starts as soon as we're out of school. So as soon as we're out of school, then Jim starts lining up, or he's lining up his companies now that are set to do the different pieces. Flooring is one we still don't have a bid on. We have 2, but not 3, because it's a fairly large bid. I want to make sure we have 3, so that's going to come in the next meeting. And that's just replacing, carpet in different classrooms and et cetera. Otherwise, you'll see, usually we have a pretty set 12 weeks and, or 10 weeks in order to get stuff done in the summer. So it's pretty kind of a crazy time. Superintendent report, so I kind of talked about some of the successes when it comes to IASB, or not IASB, the Iowa assessments. Just want to thank our teachers for all the work they're putting in with our students, and our administrators and our paraeducators and everybody that kind of works together to make sure that our students have the environment they need to succeed. We are finishing up the sports seasons here and then starting our baseball and softball seasons as well. We do have a kindergarten concert yet left, and we just had our 2nd grade musical. That was a lot of fun. Cookies, they did cookies, so I got to hand out cookies at the end. I ate my fair share of cookies, so I kept just handing them out by the handful, saying take them, can't take them home. So yeah, that's about it. Other than that, everything else is kind of listed under the discussion items.
Okay. All right, we'll go then now to our discussion item, 7.01, roof schematic design approval.
All right, I'm gonna have Brett pop back up here.
do it again.
Yep.
Does he have that drawing?
Do you have is it underneath there? And it's upside down.
That's all right. Rotate. So currently, this is what we call a schematic design
There you go.
of what will be going out for bid. It's not complete, it's 50-60% complete. Can you rotate it a little quick by any chance? There you go. So there will be a lot more information added to this, construction details, specifications, installation types, thicknesses, membrane types and thicknesses, all that stuff, along with the bid documents, the bidding rules. But just so you know where we're currently at, we did an evaluation on all the roofs that are shaded here. Those are the ones we're talking of doing right now. We found out, originally we were thinking of doing the large gym along with the commons area. After inspecting the roofs, walking the interior of the buildings, talking to the maintenance staff, the teachers in those wings, we kind of discovered the worst areas that had the most problems were the big gym and the weight room area. A lot of it had to do with mechanical details, how it tied into the rooftop units, some of the way the roof drains were done originally on the building. So there was more problems to fix in those 2 areas than the other. So we kind of changed gears from doing the commons area and went to the weight room wing. The gym was always in talk. Now we're going to do the weight room wing first, but repair the identified areas in the commons area. As I mentioned earlier, numbers are appearing to come in quite a bit lower than we had budgeted. We're going to reuse parts of the old insulation, try to save some money in some different ways. But then we're also going to be improving some of the things that were done the way they were done 20 years ago to make them function dark areas, which is the large weight room, or the weight room and the large gym, as the base bid. And then we're gonna alternate every other square you see on there. The small gym, the music wing, and then the commons will be one group. And then if numbers come in good, and we have more money to spend, it'll be the school's choice. If you want to spend that money somewhere else, it's yours to spend somewhere else. If you want to do another roof while we're at it, you know, we'll see which one of those we can fit in with the money, which one is the most in need of it currently. So things are looking up on it. That's our current plan. And if you scroll down the next few pages, it's just kind of some construction details of, you know, go another one. Just some different things we're gonna repair that, with some insulation that wasn't done previously, and it causes issues with the roofs, that we're seeing up there, so we're gonna take care of those types of issues while we're out there redoing it. So, Brent, I'll let Brent speak on as far as any approvals or votes that you guys may discuss on this. But I just wanted to give you a rundown of the plan, where we sit, and, how we're moving forward.
Yeah, so essentially what you're doing is you're just voting to approve, kind of what you just heard from him, that we're gonna do we're gonna go ahead and send out to bid the main gym, and then, it's like that whole back area, so there's like locker rooms, it kind of touches the music wing, hallway, weight room, wrestling room, kind of that whole area, that's the worst roof. And then if we have additional money, then we would come back to the board with final plans and say, hey, you know, here's where we can expand it. So, you guys of course have to approve the bids when they come in, so you guys will see it all again. This just gives them the go-ahead to go ahead and send out, or just send out these schematic drawings for bid, so.
Finalize design.
Yep.
And create the final bid package.
So have you walked, like the roof that's labeled in white, which is not a major need, have you walked around and seen like how many years we have left on that roof line, or?
Our roofing engineer that's doing the design, he did walk the entire roof when I was up there with him, and took some pictures and inspected it. In his opinion, for it being 20, 21 years old or so, maybe a few more, maybe 24 years, it's in decent shape, but in the next 5 years or so, it's gonna be done. So, it got its full life on it, so.
Any other questions?
For the schematics, are there any areas that need to be targeted for, for additional water? Like pushing water where it's supposed to go instead of pooling into certain areas, or?
You know, the way the building's built, 90+% of the building, the structure slopes, a lot of times with flat roofs, they'll have tapered insulation over a flat structure, the beams, the joists. And the insulation can deteriorate and create those pockets you're talking about. This building is 90% built with structure for the slope. So that likely is probably why the roof made it as far as it did. So really the only things we're gonna target for repair are where the known leaks are around roof drains and some critical areas.
Okay.
Can I talk?
Not during the meeting, if you want to say something during the next time for the,
Well, the question would be to him about this. I mean, it's relevant.
Right.
absolutely, but we're having a board meeting and you're listening in on it. That's how it usually goes. And is it okay if he goes in?
I mean, it's up to the board if you guys want to invite discussion from community, I mean, we got.
If you want to go ahead and ask the question, go
Yeah.
ahead.
He is on the facility committee, so I think it makes
Absolutely.
sense, yep.
The first two roofs that you're gonna do, and then you said those bids are coming in under?
We're targeting that they are coming in under from speaking with a bunch of local roofing contractors and telling them what we're looking to do.
Okay, so when you come back to the board, if there is an abundance of money, you said the control process, you're running into a lot of issues. So will you have the idea of how much the controls are fluctuating? The budget for the controls versus the overage or under on this part? Because they're not gonna wanna go,
The controls are a whole separate issue, or not, I shouldn't say issue, item. And we have an allotment of money for those, and that I believe is plenty for what we're looking to do right now. So I don't really know if the controls would need additional funding to cover what the plan is currently to do with them. Again, we're gonna get bids on all the other sections of the roofs as
Right.
alternates. So if we wanna spend the money on roofs, we'll have 3 additional areas we could roof for X amount of dollars, and then they could just either send the money there or not do the roofs and choose to spend it on something else. That help?
yep.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you very much. We'll go on to 7.02, potential November 2024 bond referendum facility plan.
So I do have a presentation. I shared it with you, Lisa. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the timeline. So last year, we went down the road, we looked at a bond. It did not pass. We had 51.4% of the vote. We needed 60% of the vote. But this all started clear back in July of 2022 when I got here. We did a facilities assessment. The previous assessment or previous plan started in 1997 with the building of the school. Kind of COVID hit, never really kind of renewed it, got off the plan. So that's what we kind of started doing, is developing a whole 20-year plan again. We did through staff walkthroughs analysis. We got Shive Hattery on board. We did that facilities assessment, presentation of findings, presentation to community members. And then we came back, the community committee came back to the board and said, we're gonna recommend going out for a bond. Be the first one since the 1997 bond. And so at the time it was like, let's try to get everything done. Let's try to get the elementary school built. Let's try to do the middle school addition, and let's get our infrastructure back up where we needed to be. So at the time, it was a $90 million bond referendum placed on the ballot with 450 citizen signatures in May. The bond amount required a second question to be asked, raising the maximum levy from $2.70 to $4.05. Both required a 60-cent approval. That would have had the levy raised in order for us to get to 90 million, would have been about $3.60, $3.70, somewhere in there. And so we went out to the committee, or out to the community. I presented, I think, 12 different times. I talked to anybody who would listen. Surprisingly, we didn't have a whole lot of people show up to those, but at the end of the day, we did get over 50% of the vote. Unfortunately, we failed. And so one of the things that I did is I came back to the board and said, regardless of how this goes, we need another facility committee. So the board at that time approved kind of formally a facility committee, and that's why Bub was here. He was a part of that facility committee. We kind of talked, if this passes, what's our priority? How do we get going? If it doesn't pass, where do we go from here? At the end of the day, 3,337 people were issued a ballot and voted in the election. 3,294 actually voted on the measure. So if you go to the next one. So in December is when the board voted to officially create that ad hoc committee. So it consists of board members, school personnel, and community members. On December 18th, they voted to engage and work with project advocates. That's Brett Wallace is here for current and future facility planning. In December through February, project advocates worked with Shive Hattery, us and the facility committee on current and future facility needs. On January 29th, one of the things to note is the board voted to approve the purchase of 31 acres of land and to extend the purchase option of the remaining 60 acres of land pending passage of a school bond. The longest timeline that they would approve for that land was December of 2024. That's the longest they would approve. At that point, it's gone if we don't pass anything. So with that information, we went back to the facility committee. Facility committee met and reviewed project advocates' work and recommendations. So one of the things that project advocates did is they took all of the recommendations that Shive Hattery gave us, about $40 million worth of infrastructure work that they had recommended in the first bond go-around. And they went through everything with a fine tooth comb and put different numbers to it and basically came up with a kind of a new proposal. If you're gonna list out different phases of this is priority 1, priority 2, priority 3, they really weeded down that $40 million recommendation down to about $25.5 million. So kind of weeded that down, got it down to more manageable numbers, but I mean, still huge numbers. And so what the committee made a recommendation was focus on the high school and Titan Hill HVAC at the time, because we did say, let's use some of the money that we're gonna use to purchase the land, and let's get some of the infrastructure done now that we have to get done. Priority 1 was the high school, HVAC, the chiller, the roofs, et cetera. The committee also recommended moving forward with plans to run a bond in November 2024 focused on infrastructure and elementary school to expand classroom space. But due to costs and lack of available bond funding opportunities in 2024, it was known at that point that the footprint was going to have to be shrunk. And so the preschool was going to remain at Kreft with the therapeutic center, and the middle school addition would have been put off for a future date. So that was all discussed up until that point. If you go to the next one. In March, the board approved summer 2024 large infrastructure project plan. That was about a $3.5 million budget, money that would have otherwise been used to purchase and develop land. The high school focused on high school roofs, high school chiller, high school, which would be the district front end system, high school gymnasium units. Take that off the chiller units and get that water to stop running across the ceiling of the gym, so it quits dripping on the floor and ruining the floor. Titan Hill HVAC boiler and chiller support for geothermal wells, and then they also approved contracts for Shive Hattery and Project Advocates for these particular items. We also sent out a survey to community members in April this month that focused on the last bond election and just feedback from there. So that's as of April, as of the end of April, that's where we sat. Go to the next one. So here's the survey results. So 516 people filled out the survey results. The majority of them owned a home in the district, and then there was a few that didn't live in the district. So we kind of recognized that, took them out of our total numbers because if we wanted to hear from taxpayers what they thought of it. So we had 516 people, about 450 people that lived in the district that we kind of looked at. So go to the next one. Current relationship, we had a lot of parents, guardians, about 80% were current parents, guardians, 19% were people who didn't have kids in the district. Either they were formerly had kids in the district or really didn't have it all. It was to note, 7.4% of the district, or of the respondents, didn't have anybody in the district, not even prior to filling this out. So, which is good. That means a lot of people found the survey because they wouldn't have otherwise had access to it, because when we looked at sending it out, we looked at doing a mailer, but it was going to be cost prohibitive, to send out a mailer. So we did social media and sent it out. So it was actually kind of impressed with the turnout. Go to the next. Age responses. So a couple things to note. One is I want you to focus on the 50 to 64 range. That was over a fourth of our respondents were ages 50 to 65 plus. So that's kind of your I don't want to say older for those who are only in their 60s. So, but that was on the upper end of the age range. So that was good. A lot of the respondents in our first election were in that same age range when we ran demographic comparisons of who went out and voted. So, if you go to the next. How do they receive information? So they kind of get it from a variety of areas: district emails, Facebook, phone, text notifications. There was quite a few that did the district website, paper copies from students going home with bags, district newsletters. There's kind of variety of things. We actually had 9% of people watch board meetings, so that was good. So if you're out there tonight, thank you for watching our board meetings. That's good. Go to the next. So if we had concerns, so the vast majority of those who took the survey, a lot of them were parents. They said they supported the referendum, which is great to know. On the flip side, I also like to know like what were the reasons for not supporting the referendum? What can we do differently? So really this is just kind of there was probably 60 comments, 70 comments, and I kind of just categorized them. So this was kind of the categories they were in where we had the most. Property valuations just increased. That was a huge one. We got a lot of, that was just unfortunate timing. Property values just went up. There was too much of a tax raise right off the bat. People saw that $90 million and They haven't seen anything since 1997, and that's huge. They're like, oh my gosh, that's too much. The $3.70 increase was too much. Traffic concerns, you know, putting a school down there now when we haven't alleviated traffic on Harry Langdon, the city hasn't had time to do their traffic studies and do different things here. That was a concern. I got a lot of unfortunate timings, probably would have passed otherwise. Lack of a defined end date plans, so the fact that we said, you know, maybe we didn't focus enough on like schools will be done at this time. Too much money requested at once. Recommendation to break it into smaller plans. I had several of those comments on there. You know, if you'd have broken it up and done smaller chunks at a time, that would have been more manageable and we can understand. You don't need everything at once. Somebody said, you know, I'd love to do everything at once too, but that's not real life. You know, you got to break it down and do it in chunks. We need to limit open enrollment. That's one good thing that happened in this legislative session is they reinstated the open enrollment deadline. And they actually put in some some allowances that we can, so if students aren't attending school or they're having a lot of discipline issues that are creating situations where they're not attending school, then we can actually revoke open enrollment now. It's brand new. So, so now it's kind of, if you want to come into a district, like you gotta show up. So you gotta be a part of it. And you gotta fill out by the deadline. And then concerns about district leadership's ability to spend money wisely. That was a couple different comments in there as well. So if you go to the next one, would you support a lesser bond, smaller levy, targeting more infrastructure, could provide an elementary school, more space, et cetera? We said, okay, if it wasn't such a big bond, would you support a smaller bond? And got a lot of definitely yeses, a lot of probably yeses, quite a few undecided, and then, you know, there's still had people that, regardless of how big the bond is, they're going to vote no. So, go to the next one. So, bond options. So, where we sat with back in February when we were talking with the facility committee is the recommendation at the time was to go after. I mean, there was several recommendations, and somebody can, if you were there, you can correct me, but there were several recommendations. Recommendation to break into smaller chunks. Another recommendation was to go after the entire amount that we could go after, which was going to be smaller than last year's amount, because the most we could ask for was a $2.70 levy, which would be about $82 million. Unfortunately, even cutting that little bit out, plus another year that's passed, plus inflation, you know, we were going to have to build a smaller building, leave preschool down at Kreft, no middle school addition. We're going to have to break it into chunks anyway if we wanted to make sure we get the infrastructure done. We knew that we could not have the same ask as last year because we were going to be capped at $2.70 because we could not ask the second question. You can't extend the levy from $2 to $4.05 in an even numbered year. So we said, you know, what are our priorities? Like, number one is need. We need to have our infrastructure repaired. The 2023 bond request was going to give us $40 million in infrastructure, $22 million in large infrastructure, $18 million in middle school renovation. Working with project advocates and Shive-Hattery, they've actually pared that down to what they consider priority 1, priority 2, priority 3, which are truly infrastructure issues. So roofs, HVAC, et cetera, comes down to about 24, 25, 26 million, somewhere in there, depending on pricing. So as you can see, those are the two goals that we had last time, goal number 1 and goal number 3, which was infrastructure and then renovate middle schools. So that's where we sat last time. And then our second goal still hasn't gone away either, and that's need space. Like, we need space now, but we're really going to need space when these new builds and stuff start coming in. You can see that the apartments on Valley View are coming up. They're doing the dirt work in the apartment complex that's kind of out by what's that intersection called out there? That
Franklin,
Frank-
McPherson and.
McPherson.
Well,
Yeah.
Valley View.
Yeah, somewhere out
Franklin
there.
and Valley View, and they're already starting
No,
with,
not that one. The one out by like Hills of Cedar Creek.
oh, okay,
That
I
one.
haven't been out
State
there.
Orchard
and-
area?
Oh,
Yeah.
Eastern.
State Orchard. Yeah.
State Orchard.
So.
And the signs and semi just came in for the one at Fox Run this last
Right.
week.
So anyway, so as we were going through, like, that's still a need, and I'll show you if you go to the next one. So anyway, this is sorry, I got ahead of myself. When we sat down with Shive-Hattery, or with Project Advocates, this is what they did for us. Is they went through, they've already presented this to you guys, but they went through and just took all of our stuff in a spreadsheet and literally went line item by line item and put their numbers to it, so they can compare what they were seeing for numbers with what Shive-Hattery is putting for numbers. and then kind of coming up with with just something that they thought was a little bit more realistic for us. So go to the next one. Estimated probable cost for prioritized needs. So you got priority 1, priority 2, priority 3. So this was, if they said if we're going to look at, what's going to have to get done in the next, 1 to 10 years, they're targeting that number at, about $25 million. And then in the next 2 to 5 years, you're looking at about $24 million worth of infrastructure, which, as you can tell, like even this $3.5 million worth of work we're doing this summer on roofs and HVAC is probably going to be at least a year project, because it just takes time to design and implement and get bids and especially if you have to react to what's available and everything else that's out there. So that's where we sit. If you go to the next one.
On that one,
Oh,
though,
go back up.
what we're doing now, is that included in these numbers?
That is included in these numbers.
Okay.
Yep. So about $3.5 million. So
Okay.
instead of 25, it's really like 22.
Okay, all right.
So if you go to the next one. Current classroom quantity creates credit classrooms. So one of the things they did was they took a look at all the students we had, all the sections we had. These are currently the students per section that we're seeing in the classrooms. Now, we do have individual classrooms that have 27 or 28 kids, but for the most part, we're sitting at 24, 25. For comparison, at Kreft, an ideal classroom setting is 20 to 22 kids. Like, that's max. And as you can see, we're already over in both areas. If you look at Titan Hill, an ideal classroom setting for a second through fifth grade class, really second grade falls in that K1, so they should have about 22 kids max. The third through fifth grade setting, max is about 22 to 24 kids. So we are over the max in literally every classroom. If you go to the next one. However, one of the things we did find is that in the last 2 years, the price of a school building has gone up 30% in the last 2 years. So 2 years ago, where they were sitting at about $250 a square foot, now they're sitting at about $350 a square foot. And we're taking all of this information into consideration when we're trying to decide, what is the future of the district and where do we go? Costs, projected costs, community feedback, where we currently sit with crowding and everything else. What are the community developments doing? And I just had a conversation with a real estate developer last week that said that some of these will be started next year, 2025. Some are undergoing now. Some won't start until 26 or 27. So Manawa in those areas as they continue to get funding and look at infrastructure. So if you go to the next one. So what I'm going to recommend at the end of the day is I'm going to recommend a phase solution. What's so funny about this is that was actually Bubba's idea back in February, January when we met, was to look at a phase solution. And at the time, I'll admit I hated it. I was like, no, phase solution is kind of a nightmare, but at the end of the day, with all the feedback that we've gotten, I think it's the right move to go. Rather than turn around and go back with a $80 million ask from where it was 90 and having to cut everything out that, the middle school addition and the preschool and those things, let's take care of the things that we have to have right now, and that's our current infrastructure. And so by listening to the community, they also said, we need to do a lower bond. Our current financial situation in the economy in general is not great. Our current political situation is who knows? It's up in the air. We were just hit with some valuation assessments that were higher than what we're used to, and so it's just too much. Ask for less is what they are telling us. Take care of our current infrastructure. Get that done. By taking care of your current infrastructure, you're literally hitting every school building. You're taking care of every student in the district. As we move forward, let's finalize the purchase of the site and then work with the city to figure out traffic before we move into that school. And then let's pay the bond off early and then ask the community again in a few years when the economy and political climate hopefully calms down, and go back in a few years when we have growth and everything else and say, now might be time. Hopefully inflation settles down. We're not seeing these big jumps. We've had some stability. Our classrooms might be a little more crowded at that time. We might have portables. I don't know. I can't predict the future, but I would say that I feel like this is a pretty solid plan, what I'm going to recommend. And if you go to the next one, we'll kind of get into it. So I'm going to recommend phases. Phase one, the first phase would be for a $30 million general obligation bond. That'll be the vote that's this November 5th. The last one was a $90 million bond. The focus on this will be to improve our current facilities, including parking lots, HVAC, roofs, structural envelope, plumbing, sewer, electrical, egress, technology, ADA accessibility, playgrounds, really make sure that our current facilities are good. Enhanced safety and security features, we have a couple buildings that need secure entrances. We need to update our fire and security alarms. We need to install technology that helps deter bad actors. That's, keyless entry on the doors, cameras, identification. There's some software out there that can help identify weapons in the parking lot. There's some different things that we can take a look at. Renovate the middle school. So one of the things I think that was funny was, in doing those tours and stuff last year, was how many people, when you're going to the middle school and you're walking through and you're doing parent-teacher conferences, it's so busy, so hectic, you don't actually stop to take a look at anything. You're just walking through the halls and et cetera. But when it's empty and you're walking through the halls and you're like, oh my gosh, that smell is not just, middle school kids that haven't showered, like that's due to the sewer, like, oh my gosh, or when you're walking through and you're like, oh, these classrooms have not changed at all in the last 40 years, and oh wow, those these areas are failing as far as the electrical and the HVAC, and the roofs have issues, and the exterior, the windows have issues, and there's an envelope issue because of, masonry and everything else. Like, there's a lot of things in that middle school that need to be kept up, and all of it just takes time and money. And then the last goal for it would be to purchase the land for the elementary school. Once it's been purchased, it ensures the site is there. It gives the city more of a reason and some time to be able to go through and fix the traffic issues that we had before we turn around and start building a school. The total levy increase, so last year the levy request was about $3.70, $3.60, somewhere in there. The total levy increase this time would be less than $1, So everybody for an average household income or average house in our district of a $300,000 valuation, that's $134 per year. So last year for the same valuation, the ask was for $510 a year. So it's significantly less of an investment by the community, but it still allows us to do, or at least get going on all the goals that we need. So we would need 814 signatures to place this measure on the ballot. That's not 814 signatures saying, yes, we're going to vote for this. That's just saying, let's put it up for vote. Let's put it on the ballot. So if you guys are good at this, and there's no approval tonight, I just want to go through all three phases, hear feedback from you, maybe hear feedback from Bubba. I've talked to him a couple different times. And then talk about, as we move forward, does this look like a decent plan? Because if so, we need to start getting signatures so it can be placed on a ballot. If you go to the next one. So sitting down, now this is nothing that, we can't hold anybody to, but when we started putting pen to paper and looking at what did project advocates have down for pricing in these areas, what would big ticket items look like? This is the types of things that you can expect to see. A lot of it would have to do with outdoor sites, parking lots, exit lanes. We would have to relocate the current tennis courts. They're trash anyway. We need to replace them anyway. But in order to get a lane, we have to have X amount of feet from the current lane in order to have an exit at the high school. So that would have to go there. Titan Hill parking lot and a lane. So that's adding that lane that goes up so we can expand that so we can get more cars off of Harry Langdon and do our part there. And then, like an entry marquee. Our marquee's broken right now. For us to replace or just to fix the internals of it is over $50,000. And so that's just at the high school. That's kind of our message board, et cetera. That would be an example of things we would do. The majority, though, you look at the high school, middle school, Titan Hill, you'll see things like LED lighting, roofs, mechanical, secure entrances. You'll see some general renovation because that's just like, some of the areas that like ceiling tiles and flooring and those types of things. It's not to make it nice, it's just to make it like good. So if we have flooring that's all torn up, carpet, et cetera, making sure we get that taken care of. You'll see locker rooms and restrooms. You'll see technology upgrades, structural upgrades. You'll see playgrounds renovations. You'll see the geothermal well at Kreft. And then tech needs, our wireless backbone needs a severe upgrade. our backbone in general, which are our servers, and those need an upgrade, our generator. We have no generator right now at the middle school, and that's where all of our technology is based out of. So when we lose power at the middle school, our battery backups only give us about, 10 to 15 minutes. It's not very long. And so we hope that the power comes back on. If something big were to happen at the middle school, that's where all of our internet for the entire district runs through. So to not have a generator that runs that, if the middle school goes down, the entire district goes down as far as our technology is concerned, phones, internet, et cetera. So looking at potentially a generator for that, and then just in general, projector, smart TVs. Vivi is the system allows teachers to broadcast. Those are just all items. And then of course you have your soft costs and contingency. So that is what you have to have built in, because like Bubba said, what happens if things get priced out, or what happens if it gets priced over? So like I said, this list here will be sat and vetted with our facility committee, but I know that when people have a question about like what is going into this $30 million, I do want to have it laid out for them. Now, of course, we're not going to bid on any of these items, because to go to bid right now when we don't have the money is not fair to our contractors. It takes a lot of money to bid stuff out. And so, and time and effort and energy. So we're not going to bid with these items. These are estimations from our industry experts that are going into this, and they're all round numbers. So they might be slightly higher, they might be slightly lower, depending on the particular item. So if you go to the next one. Phase 2 would be then to build, to go after the new elementary school in about 2029. And I put that down because at that point, we should have the bond paid off, or getting ready to pay off at that point, so we'll be able to go out to vote. The conversation will be to extend the levy rather than let it fall off, extend it so people are used to paying that amount. That'll allow us, the pros of waiting on this is it allows the current residential construction that's coming in. That was the thing we heard about last year. Well, where are these houses? When are they going to come? Well, we hear they're coming. We know they're coming. But this allows them to actually come so people can see the growth. Now, I hope that they don't outpace us. Don't get me wrong. That's one of the fears of not doing it right away is we get outpaced and we have to bring in some portables. If that happens, so be it. So the bond will essentially be a renewal of the current bond. We talked about that. And then allows the new properties, commercial and residential, to be built prior to the new bond. That means that when you do pass a larger levy, that burden goes on all of the new builds as well. So all the new houses, the apartment complexes, the commercial, so it helps spread it out. And then allows us to work with the city to alleviate traffic on Harry Langdon. So it gives us that five-year time period. So city officials, if you're watching, we got the clock ticking. And then allows us to build the whole school, not chunks. So you wouldn't have to do pre-K2. We would at that point have the ability to go back and ask for the whole school at one time. It also allows us to pivot. Who knows in 5 years where we're going to be. We do know right now that we do have infrastructure issues, and we do know that we're eventually going to see growth. So being able to get phase 1 done is a priority. Phase 2, that's something that we have a little bit of luxury, a little bit of leeway to do. So if you go to the next one, phase 3 then, so we do in 2029, we are able to borrow against that save money again that we borrowed against for the auditorium and the operations building. So that comes available again. Now, that would only be about $26 million. So it does not come close to touching a $60 million elementary school. So that's why you would still have to have a bond for the elementary school. But at least we wouldn't have to include the middle school addition into the bond for the elementary school. We could do that with the money that's coming up, so that way the school's putting in a portion of their money to be able to, so the community's not shouldering that whole burden. So it really is kind of making sure that the school's doing what they can, asking for the community only what we need, et cetera, as we move forward. So the prior project timeline ended in 2029. By phasing this out a little and even starting a year later, my current estimated project timeline would end at about 2031. So it's really not that much different. It does allow us to do chunks at a time. So like I said, and I'll admit, when Bubba first laid this out, I was like, that's never gonna work. I don't like that at all. And then I think that's why he's here tonight. He's just here to maybe gloat that.
I was curious what everybody else thought.
Yeah. So if you go to the next one. Is that it? Okay, that's it. Sorry, I should know So I guess looking at it now, like in that phase, I mean, what are thoughts of the board?
I think it's a good plan. I thought the first one was a good plan. It didn't pass. So to have to come up with a new solution that is maybe more appeasing to voters, and especially since we'll be having that vote in a general election, I think it's good that we are phasing this out into different chunks. I think that does help with, like you said, the economic and the political climates.
I think the numbers are less overwhelming too, for them to see the dollar instead of the $3 and some change on there.
Right.
And the tax is going up $100 some instead of 500. It's less scary to them,
Right.
especially because of the economy, so.
I think it's strategic. I like it because it spells out how everything needs to be, well, everything has, an expiration date on it, whether it's a roof, whether it's an HVAC, whatever it is. And that we've gone through, we've made the list, okay, we know what our needs are now, we know what our needs are gonna be in 5 years, we know what our needs are gonna be in 10. And I think if we spell that plan out, especially to the public, I don't think it's that hard to support.
I agree, and also I think it gives us time to see. I know when past housing developments came in our area, we really didn't see a great influx of students in the district. That the district population has kind of been level for the last 10 to 15 years, and I think having this staggered, we can adjust the plan moving forward depending on our enrollment increases and decreases year to year.
Yeah, being on the previous bond issue back for the high school, that was one thing, is that there was a lot of houses coming up, being built. Houses don't equate children in our school, but one thing that does equate children is a lot of times is the apartment complexes coming in. And I like this plan because we hit our need right now with the infrastructure. We can pivot. We have time, come get this paid off. And as these houses come in, they start paying taxes.
They do. Yep.
And so maybe it'll be less time. If it's an explosion of housing, the house is being built, it might be even less time.
Right.
And then we see, and as students come in, I think that's where the public will really notice it as, oh my gosh, I didn't realize there was that many houses down there. And then it's also constant communication, because that's the one struggle Lewis Central has always had. We don't have a main street. We are on the outside of, the city. And so our main street is our school. And so as we, this hasn't been talked about for a while because we were, so much happened with retiring superintendents, new superintendent, COVID. I mean, everything just kind of put on the back burner. And so now it started, the talk is getting out there. And so I think that will also help with our plan and the future, and because we haven't gone to the community, even to finish out our 20-year plan, to build the auditorium at the high school, and with the transportation. And I think that doing this in chunks and then having the experts coming in, we brought people in to help decide on what needs to be done, what's the priority. Because sitting here at the, board table, unless we go out on the roofs, we don't know.
Right.
And so I think this will, the public, it's still going to be a challenge to let people know and let them understand to get out to vote. But I think this will be good for Lewis Central to start it out this way.
Yeah, I like how it's going and targeting I know we did this the last round, but I think the building the elementary kind of overshadowed the fact that we are focusing on every building with the small bite-sized pieces. We're focusing on improving all the infrastructure in every building first and foremost, so every student is going to, reap the benefit of this. I also think it's been a while since we have had a bond, and so taking it in a bite size where we can actually show them their money is how it's getting applied, and have them believe in this district and our decisions, and growing this community in the right way. I think once they start seeing the impacts of just the renovations for the first round, maybe that will encourage them as we continue to make decisions on new buildings, that we are going to continue to be forward thinking on thinking the long run, like you guys have said, maintaining the facilities and going about that. So I mean, selfishly, I want the elementary because my kids are about to, but like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Well,
think
and
it'll help
the
them
one thing
too,
with-
though. It'll help them when it comes to how we're spending the money, for them to trust us more, how that was a piece of when you did the survey. Like, the intention obviously was there for us, and we were really excited about the elementary and all the other fun stuff that went with it, but we listened to them, and I hope they see that with what you said too. It's like, it's okay for us to do it in chunks, because we had the big picture idea, but I do like it that we're doing it this way, because again, it shows that we're being responsible with the money in the district, and hopefully we can earn their trust that way with how we're spending it, so.
And with the infrastructure, not everything is behind the walls. They're going to see a difference,
Right.
and with the road work and things like that. So I think this is a good plan.
They've all said everything. I mean, I absolutely agree with everything that has been said. I was not for chunking it out originally either. I thought, if we're gonna do it, let's go hard or go home. And, taking that step back and laying it out. And I absolutely do not want to give Bubba credit, but I'm going to. After all these years. But I definitely think that it is a step in the right direction. And like Aaron said, hopefully the community will see that we listened. That's really probably the biggest thing that I want to come out of this, is that, it's all right, I didn't want to
We're
say
all gonna have to
anything
speak
anyway.
up.
Is to have the community understand that we are listening and we do understand what your concerns are, and we are here for the kids and the teachers, and
Well, and you have to remember, over 50%
absolutely.
voted yes.
Yeah.
At least on the first. And so I don't think it's that we're not listening. It's just that, it's just that we are now looking at our very important need, our priority. Let's get that taken care of.
Well, and like I had told Dr. Hazing in a former conversation, when you step back, and it's really hard to do, but when you step back and you look at that $90 or $90 million bond that we talked about, in the fall, if you're not fully educated on it, and if you don't fully understand all the ramifications of it, I would probably vote no on it too. You go into panic mode.
Right.
And even sitting on the board and hearing all of the numbers and hearing all of the details, there are still things that, wow, that's a lot.
Right.
So making sure that people are, and not that they weren't before, because we did give lots of opportunities, but the education as far and wide as we can possibly get it.
Bubba, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I agree with everything. Everything that you guys have said was my concerns. I don't want anybody to look at it as a step back at all. The only thing is, we can't afford to go after an $80 million plan and go after 60% of the vote. We need to go after 80% of the vote for $30 million and have that cushion. That way, should somebody not go vote or whatnot, we have them covered. And we grow the community support from that. And it just keeps the ball rolling. It slows down the ball to the end. But with this way, we at least keep moving. And when you start getting into so many projects, you know, that the 90 million would have covered, I think that's, in my own opinion, I think that's too big. Too many contractors, that's when things get missed. And I think doing it this way, you focus on specific jobs. And the way I looked at it was the land. The land is what's pushing this whole thing. So once we get that part secure, it can sit there. We can lease it out to somebody, you know, if we want to. And if not, it can sit there and it's there for the use when needed.
Well, and that's one of the things too. Somebody asked, what are you going to do with the land? Because I've made about 40 phone calls in the last probably week, just to different people I know who voted yes and who voted no, just trying to figure out like where are people's minds at, you know, if we were to chunk it out a little bit differently. And so somebody made the recommendation. They're like, well, what are you going to do with the, you know, to buy land and have it sit there? You know, what are you going to do with it? Like, is there anything you can do with to make sure that the community sees some benefit of it right now? And I said, really, what we could do is a portion of it. Yeah, we'll probably, I mean, it's 90 acres. We'll probably cash rent or a portion of it. But for a portion of it, I don't know if you've ever been around our facilities or just in the city of Council Bluffs at any time and see people, the corners of fields that different clubs and organizations try to accommodate for soccer and flag football and everything else. So, you know, there's an opportunity there to be able to show, you know, we can put grass in this area of this field and turn it into something that's usable right now, you know? So I think that's, and that person's like, wow, that's a great idea. That'd be wonderful. You know, this particular person coaches soccer, so they know the need of fields and everything else. And so, you know, so I think that there's options. I think there's different things we can do. But like Bubba said, you know, making sure we secure that land, that then opens up a whole range of conversations and opportunities with the city to make sure that we can get this right, especially if they know eventually a school is going to go down in that area. So.
And I'd like to say hats off, you know, to you guys. I mean, the ones that win is the community at the end of the game. It's not me, it's not Dr. Hazing, it's not you guys, it's the whole community. And, you know, when he called the other day and, you know, we were talking about it, and, you know, he says, you know, well, what's it feel like to win? And I'm like, well, win what? And he was telling me, and I just wanted to say hats off to you guys for actually opening up your, as much as you didn't like the idea or.
I called you, and the first thing out of my mouth was
Yeah.
you better tell everybody that I listen.
Yeah, he says, something about, somebody didn't listen. But I'm just glad you guys, you know, are open to other options, or where the goal's the same, we just take a little detour. So.
Yep. Any other feedback? All right, so we'll move forward with trying to get 814 signatures, so.
Okay. We'll go then to 7.03, Kraft asphalt bid.
So I actually, you guys already saw this, but when I calculated up the total amount, when I had Travis read that, it was a little short. Jim's like, that doesn't equal the amount that we were supposed to do, and so, I actually did not calculate the Kraft Elementary into the total amount of that bid. So that's $25,380.78. So it includes the back road in the back, pothole repair, damaged cracks, crack filling, and then painting lines. So, so that was that.
So we just have to vote on
Yep.
the Kraft part.
The Kraft part, yep.
Okay. Any discussion? All right, 7.04, band equipment purchase.
So you have the statement from Mr. Tucker there. So the total request is for $35,599. So they identified drumline clear back in 2020 as something they needed to replace. So they've been kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul, taking pieces off of some drums and put on others and just trying to make the drumline work. Every year, we set aside between $30,000 and $40,000 for instrument repair, renovation, and purchase. So this is what they want to use their money for this year is a new drumline set. So this was actually a used set. So Southwest Iowa did a honor band bowl trip. So they're purchasing a brand new drumline set, and then when they're done with it, then they turn around and sell it for a heavy discount. So it's probably a $60,000 drumline set that they're going to get for $35,000. So.
Any discussion?
How long do they normally last?
Oh, I want to say probably 20 years. I mean, the instruments can last a long time. I mean, a lot of the drums are the drum themselves lasts a long time, but you have to switch out like the bladder or whatever they call it, like the skins. You got to do that. There you go. I wasn't a drummer, but are you a drummer, Bubba?
Nope.
No.
Trombone.
But like otherwise, instruments can last forever. My trumpet I've had since I was 7, and
Yeah, but with the drums being, they were used, right?
They're gonna
This
be
purchase?
for the one trip.
Okay,
one trip. Yep. So
Okay.
they buy them brand new, and then they sell them to us for
Perfect.
about 60% of the cost.
Okay.
So.
that's a great deal then.
Okay, any other questions? All right, 7.05 beverage distributor contract.
So we've had Pepsi for a long time. Our agreement's coming to an end, so we need to renew it. I will tell you that Pepsi, because we've had Pepsi for so long, like all of their, like every cooler we have, every vending machine, every, like in our concession stands, in our schools, and everywhere is Pepsi. And a lot of some of their equipment's aging quite a bit, and so we're constantly having issues with it. So when we did our renewal, that's one of the things we're looking for is for them to replace a lot of these machines. They just really didn't have any interest in that. And then Coke came in because they want to win our business with bigger discounts, bigger kickbacks, bigger scholarships. Or at least it's frowning. Or Mountain Dew's going away. So I like Coke Zero though. So but anyway, and they're bringing in all brand new machines. So it's kind of a no-brainer. Like if Pepsi would have come close, then we would have probably stayed with them, but they really weren't. So. And like I said, at the end of the day, it really doesn't cost us. We just approve the contract because our booster club ends up making a bunch of money off of it. So, and our nutrition as well. So.
Well, we've had Pepsi because they've always been the better deal.
They have been.
You know,
Yep.
and, but if it's getting to the point where we need to, they need
Yeah.
to change it up,
Yeah.
then
Drink some Mellow Yellow.
we,
That's like a dirty word to a Mountain Dew drinker.
That's not
the same, sorry.
That's like telling me to go drink a Mr. Pibb. It's not the same.
okay, any discussion on that? Okay. Then we will have 7.06 FCCLA Club.
So every what do we call it? Career and technical ed area now has to be affiliated with a club, and so that's a new state law. And so
This is Future Career and Community Leaders of America.
Yep, so this would be a club that our Family and Consumer Science has to be now have a club that they are attached to. So this would be the club that they're attached to. So they've been trying to get this off the ground for a while. They're finally turning the paperwork, and now we can get them a club. So this would actually pay for 2. So on the master contract and supplementals, it just says club sponsors. This would add 2 club sponsors to it because you usually have 2 sponsors per club. So.
Any discussion?
So this says middle and high school, or would this be just
This would be
targeted for-
just high school.
Okay.
The club does extend down to middle school, but we really don't have any family and consumer science at the middle school. So So there wouldn't really be an opportunity for that.
Okay.
On a side note, I'm actually on the state board for FCCLA, so not affiliated with this whatsoever, but, well, affiliated with this, not this decision, so.
Any other questions? Okay, 7.07, teacher professional development training.
I'm gonna let Lisa take this one. This is her realm.
All right, so for those who are new to the board, there's a teacher quality committee, and it's really kind of governed by Iowa code. And it is how professional dollars get approved, and it is, half of the membership is admin, half of the membership are teachers, and the teachers are also part of the association. So this has already been vetted and approved through the TQ committee. But when I went to put it through, I was like, oh, it's over $20,000, so then it officially now needs to be board approved. But what this is it's a Tiny Techies Conference. This is the foundations of computer science, and as you guys know, Beth Smith and Annalise Lettner have done a lot at CREF to get computer science stuff up and going, and it's been really cool to watch them this year. They've really brought a lot of teachers along with them and have helped support them in their knowledge and learning with computer science. The cost on this is high because of the number of teachers that are going, but then also they get a lot of tools and computer science kits and activities to bring back with them. So they'll have those for all of the classrooms, for all of the teachers who are going.
How many teachers do you have going to this?
I don't remember. It's a good handful. I mean, I think it's about 10 teachers or so that are
I think
going.
it's 10 teachers, 'cause it's about 2,000.
$1,300 a teacher, I think.
1,300, maybe there's 12 teachers at 13.
I'd say.
15, there we go.
Mrs.
Josh will
Smith
know.
told- Mrs. Smith told me 15, yeah, 18.
15,
Reached
okay.
out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And when is this?
It's this summer. I believe it's in June.
Okay.
And CREF has been very conservative. Each building gets allotted a chunk of money for the TQ funds, and CREF's been very conservative this year with their spending, and so they still have money left, and this has seemed like a good way for them to spend down some of the money that they have.
So this is that money now that we can't spend in any other area besides professional development. So when people say, well, why don't you use that to do an HVAC unit? Because it's illegal. So we only spend it on teacher professional development.
Any other questions? All right, 7.08, AEA support staff contracts.
So every year we purchase services from the AEA. So they always kind of bundle these three together. It's like the school-based interventionists and the additional days, master social worker, and then IT master service agreement. So that's where they basically support our IT department. And so so they just approve their side of the arrangement. It's just for us to approve our side of the arrangement. This is not money that, like the state, when they just passed the AEA bill and they gave us 60% and they keep 40%. This has always been a separate standalone that we've always purchased through our like at-risk dollars. So it's just separate. So
Any discussion? All right, 7.09, discussion regarding matters of employment conditions for employees not covered by collective bargaining agreement. Per Iowa code, we are allowed to have this into closed session. So with that, can I get a motion to go into
It
closed
is
session?
actually just an exempt session, so we do not need a motion.
Oh, you want to do action items first? Is that what you said?
No, it's an exempt session, so it's not, we don't need a motion to go.
Oh,
in.
okay. So we are allowed to go into exempt session for this. Do we need a vote on that?
No.
And we just leave the room?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we can leave the room or we can have them leave and then we can do the closed session right after that.
Okay, so we could go ahead and ask those in attendance to leave the room. And then right after that, we have 7.10, employee request for other paid or unpaid leave. And that will be allowed in closed session.
we'll do those back to back.
So we'll do those back
See
to
you, Brett.
back.
Thank you.
And
Okay.
turn off your mics. Thumbs up. Got that. So we are back from closed session, and it is comments and suggestions. This is the second time during our board meeting that anyone in our audience or anyone online, if they'd like to type something in, can address the board. All right, we'll go then to our action items. 9.01, roof schematic design approval.
Madam President,
Mr. Houston.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the schematic roof design and bid package as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Miss Adkins?
Yes.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes. 9.02, craft asphalt bid.
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion to approve the asphalt bid from Century Asphalt for $25,380.78.
Second.
And we have a second. Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Miss Adkins?
Yes.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes. 9.03, band equipment purchase.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Atkins.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the bid from Ryman Music for band equipment for $35,599.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Miss Adkins?
Yes.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes. 9.04, beverage distributor contract.
Madam President,
Mr. Houston.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the contract with Coca-Cola for beverage distribution.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Miss Adkins?
Yes.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes. 9.05, FCCLA Club.
Madam President,
Mr. Houston.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the FCCLA as a club.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Miss Adkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes. 9.06, teacher professional development training.
Madam President,
Mr. Houston.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the professional development training from the New Bohemian Collaborative Incorporated for $20,250.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Miss Adkins?
Yes.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes. 9.07, AEA support staff contracts.
Madam President,
Mr. Houston.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the AEA contracts for the 2024-2025 school year as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Miss Adkins?
Yes.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes. 9.08, certified profession and classified employee salaries for 2024-2025.
Just approve them as presented.
Madam President,
Mr. Houston.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the certified professionals and classified employee salaries for 2024-2025 as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Miss Adkins?
Yes.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes. 9.09, administrator salaries for 2024-2025.
Madam President,
Mr. Houston.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the administrator salaries for the 2024-2025 school year as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. 9.10, employee request for other paid or unpaid leave.
Madam President,
Mr. Houston.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the employee request for unpaid leave as presented in closed session.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. Items of interest, future board meetings. Our next regular board meeting will be May 20th at 6:30, and we will not be live streaming it that night since there's a soccer game. Okay? And so if you want to come in and sit in the audience, you can attend that board meeting. We are also closed session 10.01, superintendent evaluation. I'm going to ask you, do you want this? We are going to evaluate your past year. Do you want this in closed session? Per Iowa code, we are allowed to do that.
Yes.
All right. With that, I will need a motion to go in closed session.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. And after our closed session, we will be adjourning, so everyone can go, except for board members and